Okay, so I think we got it wrong. I think the last couple chapters we were misled, we were bamboozled, hoodwinked into thinking something was going to go down or the story was going to go a certain way based on the premise that it seemed as though we were getting into a prison break arc. The all for one prison break, all the villains were coming out, all of that jazz, and while that did happen, it wasn't like a giant arc or anything like that. For the most part, a lot of it was resolved last chapter and a bit of the latest chapter 298 as of the recording of this video, because it seems as though we're going into, like, right now the period of, let's just say, to give a comparison, Naruto just before we jump into Shippuden. Like, we're getting a lot of aftermath, you know, everybody's injured at the hospital. Even on the villain side of things, there's a lot of resting and healing and preparing that needs to be done. It seems as though we're actually going into that, opposed to like a non-stop train of just absolute carnage that we were led to believe was going to go down. But I think this is more necessary. I think where we're at right now with the story is needed. We need a downtime, to be honest with you. Like, who else can really fight at this particular point? Almost every major hero has been injured, is hospitalized, missing limbs, dead. Like, yeah, what else can we go with this other than, yo, we need a downtime, we need a break? And at the same time, there is one thing regarding the story and where we're at right now that I'm a little bit like, I don't know how I feel. I'm not feeling too great about it though, because I was really gung-ho about one idea and it seems as though we're going a different direction. So we're gonna get into that, but nevertheless, yes people, we are getting into it. Let's talk a little bit of that My Hero Academia greatness. Let's do it. Make your move. That's how it be though. Okay, so before we go beat by beat, I just gotta say something, right? The crucial structure of the My Hero Academia story, it's felt as though from the jump that Shigaraki, and I've said it many times on video, like you could check back my reviews, I've said this a lot. Shigaraki was the flip side of the coin to Deku. That felt like the premise, that felt like the design of the story. As Deku continued his journey on trying to be the world's #1 hero, Shigaraki has continued his journey of being an agent of chaos and just being the greatest villain at some given point on his journey, on his way there. And it seems as though with the latest war arc that we just went through and what happened in the last couple chapters, it might not be going that way anymore. It seems as though the foundation of where we were going with My Hero Academia is starting to alter, and I'm not sure if that's due to maybe, again, like I've talked about in the past, it seems as though My Hero Academia has kind of been altered and changed. There was a possibility of probably within the last, let's just say 50 to 100 chapters, that something changed and sparked to where we're not going the same direction anymore. We're going a totally different way, or it got extended, so to speak, because again, where we're at right now with All for One and the way he's basically stripping the role away from Shigaraki of villain and main antagonist, it kind of feels like it was to be expected at some given point that All for One was going to jump in, but the way he kind of stole Shigaraki's glory at the very end of the war that we just wrapped up, and then where we're at right now, even Spinner's reaction and whatnot in this chapter, I kind of feel to a certain degree the same way. Like, I'm a massive, and maybe you could call this that is more so a bias, and I'm talking mainly about like the things that I like, so it's not criticism regarding the actual material and, you know, the content itself and the actual narrative. Is more so just, and maybe it is about the narrative in terms of the villain structure and where that felt like it was built up to where it's at right now, because I was madly in love with the idea of Shigaraki just little by little becoming the main villain, just the way Deku started his story of saying this is a story of how I became the greatest hero. Shigaraki is saying the same thing on the villain side of things. So seeing All for One basically stealing the spotlight right now, again, we all assumed at some given point he might return, there might be one more battle, maybe this is going to be where he kills All Might, but it just kind of feels a little bit like, as a Shigaraki massive fan that I've become, that I never thought I would be, to be honest with you, in the beginning of the series, never in a million years I thought, I feel a little robbed. I feel a little cheated. So, yeah, that's something that I just wanted to throw out there, and I'm very curious what you guys think about that. Again, I feel like, man, I hope we get back to at some given point Shigaraki taking the helm of this whole story as being the main villain. But anyway, from the top, we start off with some very confusing things that I had to reread a couple different times, check out a couple different forums to actually understand, because I was genuinely really confused of the beginning of this chapter with the whole Twice clone thing. I was just kind of like, what? Like, I get it. Okay, Twice cloned himself as Reed Destro, but I was still kind of confused. And based on what I've gathered, it seems as though in the beginning of this chapter, Twice actually, way before even this war, basically at the end of the last war against the Liberation Army, the League of Villains versus Forces of Liberation, he had cloned himself, or made a clone of himself as Re-Destro. That was basically the other side of the identity of Re-Destro. While the Re-Destro we've seen that was rocking with the League of Villains was doing these dastardly deeds behind the scenes, the twice clone of Re-Destro was doing the business side of things, you know, the public appearances and things like that. And that's what I seem to have gathered was going on there in terms of the twice situation. Because again, I was just genuinely a little bit confused. Like, okay, so there was a twice clone. So has Re-Destro been dead this whole time, or what's going on? But it seems to be that was the case. So there's been two Re-Destros, one handling the public appearances, the TV, the day-to-day work on the front end, and on the back end with the villains and stuff like that was the real Re-Destro. And it seems as though the Public Safety Committee actually were pretending that they were going to make some sort of deal or whatnot with Re-Destro, and they actually were going to attack because, you know, everything that was going down. And yeah, they got the wrong guy because it was the twice clone this whole entire time. So yeah, that's seemingly what happened in the beginning of this chapter, and maybe I'm off on that, but yeah, it was pretty freaking confusing. I wish Horikoshi would have made that a little bit clearer. I was not a fan of trying to break my head to understand, so what? But then we flash forward 6 hours after the escape from the Tartarus prison of All For One and all of them, and it seems as though since then they have went to 7 different prisons and busted out inmates from 6 of them. I'm very curious why only 6 of them, why not 7? But either way, that was interesting, and I'm imagining at this point any villain that has been locked up throughout the entire run of this franchise is probably free at this particular point, unless they were like in some off jail while all the prison breaks was happening and they weren't in the prisons. If 7 prisons, everyone including Stain, all of them have to be free at this particular point. So you will see them on the streets, from the overhauls, which I made a mistake, I want to say in my last video, like I didn't realize that was Overhaul looking a little rough, but Overhaul, Stain, all of them. We saw, of course, Muscular was released. So a lot of these villains, it's going to be great to see them again. It's almost like a Edo Tensei, but they weren't dead, they were just released from prison. So that's going to be fire. And also very strategic, which that's something that All For One is very, very good at. He's like, yo, at the same time, this is going to keep them distracted because, you know, you can imagine that the world right now is hunting down this dude after the whole entire war and everything that went down. Now they're going to be distracted like, well, do we go after him or the bajillion freaking inmates that just escaped? We probably have a better shot at getting them than this monster. So good idea there, and it shows just the strategy and the capabilities and the finesse, so to speak, that this man has. But then when All For One says, yo, I need y'all to watch this body while I rest, you know, obviously he's torn the hell up and exhausted. What Spinner said is what I felt, and I'm imagining a lot of Shigaraki fans felt, when he's like, yo, you know, we played games together, we bonded. You're not the guy that I signed up to follow. You're not him. And that's what I feel as though, as a fan of the villain side of things of My Hero Academia, let's not get it twisted. I like All For One. I, for the longest time, said that All For One versus All Might was one of the peaks of the My Hero Academia story. So do not mistake what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, though, I'm a Shigaraki fan. I was led to believe that Shigaraki was going to be the main monster of the story, and it seems as though the narrative is starting to alter slightly in terms of that now All For One is stealing that thunder. Now, granted, it's been set up since the beginning of the story, just like, I don't know, go to like a fairy tale that Zeref is the main guy or something like that. All For One has been said to be the main guy, but the way things have been, like, he was at the back burner for the longest time, and Shigaraki's war has been the main center, even in the last one. It seems as though at the very end, Shigaraki's glory of being a monster was robbed. Now, granted, we also got some of that backstory, so it's a complicated feeling that I have with it of like, yeah, at the same time, even Shigaraki only partially believed, you know, in his hateful ways, because a part of it was that he was just very upset and angry of the past, of the monstrous shit that happened to him from his family, but he still wanted to be a hero when he was younger. So it's a conflicting emotion that I feel, but yeah, I don't know. I really like Shigaraki, and I hope we get back to him at some given point. Especially, I thought after last week's chapter of seeing All For One breaking out in his real body next to Shigaraki, I was like, okay, now you could give our guy his body back and fuck off and do your little dastardly deeds. What are you doing? But he says he respects Tomura's will, and this body just needs a little time to rest, and once it's perfected, that their ideologies will come to fruition. And I was wondering, like, did he mean that this body needs time to rest and be perfected, or his other body? Where is his real body at this particular point? Is he getting it ready because he's going to completely transfer consciousness into the Shigaraki body after getting prepared and getting it, you know, fixed and healed up? Like, I don't know. I like All For One. I like Shigaraki more. But we cut to the hero side of things 2 days later, and Bakugo is waking up, and this chapter, another thing that is showcased was massive character development for Bakugo. Like, we've seen it throughout the last couple arcs, little by little, which I think reality-wise, Bakugo's probably had the most realistic character development. It's been gradual. It's been slow. It hasn't been like one event happened and all of a sudden Bakugo goes from being an absolute bully asshole piece of shit to, I like you, Deku. We've seen it slowly happen. A lot of things had to happen to this kid to where he's at right now, waking up with an anxiety-induced damn near panic attack, worrying about his peoples, his comrades, even referring to Endeavor as a sensei and things like that. That is something that is really, really realistic character development for Bakugo. And we see Gran Torino is still alive, unfortunately. I gotta say unfortunately because I thought that would have been a big casualty, but I mean, we did have a death, you know, with Midnight and whatnot, but I thought Gran Torino was gonna bite the big one, and it would have made sense, you know, an older guy, you know, he was in a bad war and shit like that, but he's hospitalized. We also see Aizawa is hospitalized, missing that leg, so it kind of balances itself out. Like, yeah, now Aizawa really can't be a hero like that. He can still be a hero, but he can't function as well, like, you know, he's missing a limb, so there's casualties in that regards. There's damage done, impact done in certain regards. Like, maybe Gran Torino might not ever be able to walk again, who the hell knows. And then Todoroki waking up, which now that I think about it, a lot actually was covered in this chapter. Like, yo, we just went from like the Reed Destro situation to the All For One Shigaraki spinner situation to Bakugo waking up to now Todoroki waking up, and then we jump from that to the media, which by the way, Todoroki being bandaged up, yeah, you know, he caught it bad at the hands of Dabi, but then the media is outside in a frenzy because don't forget, Dabi just kind of sent the world into a frenzy over the whole accusations against Endeavor. It's kind of funny, like, I still don't really care about that weirdo. Like, we see the flashback of that weirdo from a few arcs ago that he was like predicting shit and saying bad shit is gonna happen. Like, just shut up. Even though, like, thinking about it now, he probably is free roaming the streets again because everybody was released from prison. Oh god, we're gonna get another chapter or two of this guy at some point showing up like, I saw it all! Like, fuck you, you weird piece of shit. But a lot of this was reflection from Todoroki. Like, Shoto was really reflecting back, thinking like, oh shit, for starters, Dabi, his flames is stronger than Endeavor's, and kind of a self-realization for his character, honestly giving me a vibe. And I know I mentioned Naruto already once in this one about, like, you know, pre-time skip, just about to head into a time skip, but this also kind of feels like a Sasuke Itachi type of situation. You know, he's damaged. He saw the difference in strength, just like a Naruto Part 1 when Sasuke realized the strength difference between him and Itachi. That's kind of what it feels like with Shoto in this one. But the difference between like Itachi and Sasuke is that Todoroki, you know, he understands now. He's not on that hatred level. He looks at Dabi as, oh, this was me pre-character development. Like, that's the difference. Like, Sasuke was just on a train of hatred and no matter what, pre-time skip, he was like, yeah, I gotta kill this man no matter what. And then, of course, we went through hell after the fact. But I think Shoto understands a little bit more now, and he recognizes, like, I've changed for the betterment. If not, that would be me, and I don't want to be like that. And when he says dad can't do it, for starters, you know, I think he's referred to him as dad before, but him saying dad can't do it, I gotta be the one to take down my brother Toya, it put a lot of things into perspective for me at the very least, looking at the character of, he understands what needs to be done. He understands that you gotta let go of the complete hatred. Like, look, Endeavor's whole life has just been ruined. The thing that he's built up, his image, public image, everything all these years has come crumbling down. Maybe he might finally get to the point of recognizing and realizing, like, yo, I need to be nice to the old man. Yeah, I think Todoroki is probably going to move differently when it comes to his father moving forward. We even see his siblings entering the room, so they're gonna have a family moment, which I think that this moment, unfortunately, at the cost of Endeavor, is going to bring that family closer and heal more wounds. It took ripping the band-aid open, somebody like Toya coming back to life essentially, or coming back into their lives on a whole crazy creepy tip in order to bring this family together, which is crazy because it's ironic that he wanted to do the exact opposite. He wanted to hurt Endeavor so badly, but instead he did what Endeavor has dreamed of, and that's putting his family back together and healing them. But I wonder how the healing process is going to go, and if his voice is going to be different. Like, the fact that his throat is all burned up, is that going to heal properly? Like, are they gonna, who knows, just random thought that just came into my mind. Maybe Todoroki's voice actor doesn't want to do the role anymore, and they're gonna have to switch voice actors, and this is going to be the great excuse to do it. Like, his throat burned up, so he's not gonna sound the same. Random thoughts, probably has no validity to it, but that would be a good excuse if he wanted to walk away from the role, right? And then when we get to Bakugo, like, you know, he's pushing through, they're holding him back because he's like, no, that weakling, he's gonna be dead meat if he dies on me. For whatever reason, kind of gave me vibes, and I know I've done a lot of comparisons. This one's not Naruto, relax. It reminded me of Yu Yu Hakusho episode 1 when Kuwabara is going to Yusuke's funeral and he's like, no, that punk can't die on me. That's the vibe that it gave me. Like, because you see now Bakugo is way more closer. He's still an asshole, an angry dude like Kuwabara, but he's more sympathetic now. He feels more, he's understanding more, he's connected more. So the way he's approaching Deku is not like where he would have just been an asshole before saying, you're lying and cheating. Like, now there's more emotion behind it, and I like that. And I thought that was a very powerful moment, and I think the anime can nail this if they do it correctly. Like, it'll be very, very impactful. Because we find out everyone is conscious that was in this whole battle except Deku. So I think even Endeavor is actually conscious, which is kind of really fucked up. But Deku is the only one that is unconscious, and we see All Might by his bedside there, and the chapter ends. Granted, we know Deku is going to wake up at some given point. Something's going to happen there to wake him up. Probably maybe the Vestige will wake him up, and he's going to wake up in a crazy roar and wreck the room, and All Might's going to be there. All right, relax, Bob, relax. But yeah, honestly, this chapter feels like an intermission chapter. I really, really strongly believe chapter 300 or 301, we're going into a time skip. That's how this felt. Like, again, we thought for a little bit that we were getting into a big, massive arc. The hype was not stopping, but I think it's slowing down a little bit. I think right now we're looking like, yo, there's so much damage, and now there's a million villains out there to go and capture. Yeah, this is setting up nicely for a time skip with characters that now we're more familiar with. Sure, we'll get probably some new characters here and there, but we got a lot, like even Gentle. Yeah, he'll probably be free as well. Like, we got a lot of big setups moving forward, and I'm very excited if we go and when we go, because I think at this point it's a matter of when, which I think 300 will start one. Just saying. Probably will have a time skip. To be honest with you, if this was 298, Deku is probably waking up next chapter, and we're heading into a time skip at 300. That's my predictions. Very curious what you guys thought about this chapter. What do you think about my starting of this video, my kind of rant, I guess you could say, about them replacing or moving Shigaraki aside in favor of All For One? How do you feel about that? Do you feel as though, since it's been set up anyways, that All For One would be the big baddie from very early on, that should be the case, or you've liked that duality of Shigaraki being the opposite side of the coin of Deku in terms of being the main villain to his main protagonist? Also, your thoughts on just the carnage that has been left behind. Did I nail it in terms of the confusion regarding Redestro and Twice Clone and all that shit in the beginning of this chapter? Your thoughts on Todoroki and where his character is going moving forward? And yeah, your overall thoughts and expectations for My Hero Academia with chapter 299 and beyond. I'm calling it time skip at 300. We gotta wait and see though. That's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule. Anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in. And yo, a lot of damage has happened in My Hero Academia, and I don't know, this series could go so many different ways. We gotta wait and see. Yeah. It's nights like this, and times like this, what's that I can give another hit, but I've got this inside a switch, a natural bliss, but